I'm excited to dig in. Okay, so we have some sriracha sauce and some chili oil with fermented soybeans. I actually had a friend introduce me to this, and it was absolutely delicious. Goes really well with a lot of things, but definitely with bread and this kind of things. And it's interesting because these kinds of sauces I feel like just go well with bao buns and other Chinese foods or other Oriental foods. So it's interesting because I was actually looking at let's keep them stacked. I was actually looking into the history of bao buns because I was just like, why is it called a bao bun? And quite fascinating, actually. This is brand new. So apparently it was developed by in the 3rd century. And if you're not interested in this, no worries. You can totally skip ahead or do whatever you like. I just think it's quite interesting. But it was developed in the 3rd century by a military strategist called Zhuge Liang. And so he was on the southern campaign. He had already defeated his enemies. And the difficulty now was actually crossing this river, which apparently was, guarded by this deity. And this deity would not let him pass unless he threw 50 heads in the river. He didn't want to sacrifice his own troops, so huge respect, Zug, I guess. I'm like, Zug, he's got respect for his fellow men. So not wanting to sacrifice his troops, this is so good with it, by the way. He then orders 50 buns to be made because apparently they look like heads because of the round shape and the flat base. And then he threw the 50 buns in the river and was able to cross. So, and I might be butchering the pronunciation, but it was based on what's called mantau, which was like, a comparison for bread. And so, yeah, that's the story behind bao buns. And it's funny because Disney came out with a short. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but I think it was just called Bao. And yeah, it was a guy, a boy that grew up that was a bao bun. I mean, maybe I'll put a photo of what I'm talking about in the video. Oh gosh. But it's hilarious. And I was like, that makes total sense. At first I thought it was a little weird because it was just like, he's a living person, but he's like a bao bun. But knowing the origin of the story, I was like, oh, makes a lot of sense. So, as I'm eating this, I actually gotta say, I love Chinese food. Oh, actually, the last thing that I'll say is, it's actually pretty amazing because as I did that search, just, trying to understand a bit more about bao buns, each, different country has their own version. And that's what's in it. It's got some pork, some vegetables. Pretty good. Really good. Let's go with the sriracha, this one. Oh gosh, I'm honestly so bummed that it wasn't super high. It's okay though. I was in my mind, I was thinking the Leaning Tower of pizza, but it's Leaning Tower of baos. But yeah, for example, in Taiwan, Hong Kong, like they have different versions of their own probably version of bao buns, which I thought was fascinating because you could go to Hong Kong one day. Oh, I wish that'd be amazing. Yeah, and eat a different style of bao bun, and go to Taiwan or another place, and they're gonna have a different style of bao bun. Maybe I could include photos there too of the different styles, but it's so good. This is a really good bun. The one thing, if I could change anything, would be probably more filling. Either more filling or less bun. I mean, the bun still is really nice. I don't know if you can see, but it's just like really fluffy, light, and really tasty. I do really like bread though. I really like carbs and all that good stuff. Which is probably not the best. But it just tastes so good. Especially pizza. I love pizza, hamburgers. So if I was to describe this sauce, I mean, I know so many people have eaten sriracha before. By the way, speaking of which, I'm probably butchering this too. Oh, and I wonder if I should get more educated on sriracha. Is it Vietnamese? But anyways, maybe it is Chinese, but it says Hai Phong Foods. This brand seriously is the best because for a time there was like a shortage of sriracha, of this sriracha sauce. So I bought a different brand and it just was not the same. Which is unfortunate, but. So let me describe this sauce. I love sauce, honestly. I'm a saucy guy. But in the sense where I just love sauce. And it's amazing because it has such a good amount of kick. And then you get these, it may be hard to see. And I don't really want to drip it everywhere. But you get these chili flakes with it. And then fermented beans. So the chili flakes just add a little crisp to it, honestly. And then just an added kick of spice. But when you actually eat into the beans, because they're fermented, it's like this little explosion of flavor when you bite into it. And it's just really salty in the best way. Honestly, I think I like this better than the sriracha. Like, I can eat sriracha with so many different things. Of course, in pho. I love sriracha on the side, of course. But honestly, I've even had sriracha sometimes with pizza. As weird as that sounds, it's actually pretty good. Those beans are just so good. I've had this actually with some fried rice before. It tastes so good. I'm such a believer in, if you're having a certain type of food, having, like for example, Oriental food, right? Asian food. If you were eating some Asian food, having an Asian sauce to go with it, I think, it makes total sense. If you're having Italian food, right? Okay. The funny thing is, pizza could be seen as, Italian food. And then here I am eating sriracha with it, right? But, you're probably not gonna put a different kind of sauce for its base. I'm not gonna put sriracha for the base. Although I wonder, that could actually, so, who knows? Because I know there are a lot more fusion restaurants out there. So, who knows? But for me, to be very safe, I do like eating, the same kind of sauce from the same country or region with the same type of food. But I've had some good fusion food. So, for example, oh boy, Korean tacos. And I know I'm Korean, so naturally I love Korean food. But who would have ever thought of putting kimchi in a taco? Maybe you asked me before I tried it, I would have been like, that sounds just a little odd. But I had Korean tacos and they blew my mind. I was just like, this is one of the most delicious tacos I've ever had. That was good. Oh, excuse the oil. Getting all over me. That is one thing about me. It's kind of embarrassing. But I do spill on myself a lot. There are so many times where I'm eating and then all of a sudden, all of a sudden I have some oil or, a splatter of the sauce or, literally a fat piece of chicken on my lap. And I'm like, how did you get that? And I'm just like, how does this happen almost every meal? I try to be careful these days, though. I really do. Ooh, now that is a question. Question of the day. What is your most embarrassing moment? Like that you want to share, that you can laugh about, that you can, Because I get it, sometimes you might have a moment, and you're like, look, I didn't even want to share that. But I think it'd be really fun to share what your most embarrassing moment was. And of course, like, if you're gonna comment, please share one that you're open and willing to share, of course, firstly. But secondly, if you're gonna reply to that comment, please, be nice. That is, the hope is that everyone can, at least the hope for my channel is that, there are a lot of people that may not say nice things on the internet in our day. Truthfully, I think we need more kindness being spread, more positivity. It reminds me of Trolls, that scene where, I think his name is Creek, where he's like, just a little bit of positivity, eh? Oh man, the British accent is so beautiful. If this was just filled with pork, and maybe some sauce in there, man, that would be so good. It's still really good, but as I squeeze it like this, I'm just like, there's so much potential in you, little Bao, little boy. Little Bao and boy, that makes total sense. Okay, wow, that was like literally light bulb moment. Obviously, when I read the stuff about, the history, I was like, okay, that makes sense. Bao was, like an equivalent of a head. But, and then they make a Bao living boy. But boy and Bao. Anyways, I'm easily entertained sometimes, which can be a good thing, bad thing sometimes. What was I saying? Oh yeah, kindness. Because as I mentioned, right, like, I do want to spread positivity and, inspire and uplift with this channel. So I just simply ask, in your comments, always please be nice. And that's probably like the deepest stuff that I'd want to share today. It's like when you're nice to someone, it only pays off. I know someone might have an example of, oh, it's nice to this person, but they did this. I get that. It's happened to me before, plenty of times. You get taken advantage of, and that can, honestly, firstly, really hurt. Secondly, it can totally turn you off from being nice. You start to almost, make presumptions about people or certain situations. And I get that. Even in like a competitive environment, if you're nice to someone and they beat you, that doesn't feel nice at all. However, this is just my opinion. But when you're nice to people, at the end of the day, you can actually be happy with yourself, right? Or at least I think so. That's kind of the way I see it. Because there have also been times when, like I said, you have a bad experience and then you're like, oh, darn, like that really affected me negatively. I'm not going to do that again. But then, like I said, it's happened to me, and then maybe I'm not nice to someone. Maybe I've judged someone. Maybe I've, honestly, maybe even, just like jump to conclusions. And then after the situation, after the fact, I'm like, gosh, like, especially if I realize like that I was being, judgmental or jumping to conclusions, I'm like, gosh, like, that wasn't nice at all. I almost regret it and like, feel bad for it. Whereas situations where I feel like I've been kind to people, say for example with a friendship, say if I've been kind to someone and I feel like they were mean to me, said something behind my back, whatever, and yes, that may be helpful, but at the end of the day, it's like, well, I know how I treated them. I know I treated them well. And that situation can be applied to so many different situations. It's interesting. We were watching MasterChef the other night. And for those that know MasterChef, it's a pretty competitive show. For those that haven't seen it, it's a show where there are 3 judges. Gordon Ramsay is one of them. And I love it, by the way. He's always got his like mannerisms, and he always says the most stunning. Like, for example, if this was him, he would be like, this is the most stunning piece of bao bun. This is one good piece of bao bun. He's just so emphatic all the time. I botched that impression, by the way. But anyways, so super competitive. It's a bunch of amateur home cooks that get brought in, compete against each other in different challenges, whether it's a cooking challenge individually or team challenge. It's actually a really good show. But naturally, it's very competitive. And so this season that we're watching, season 3 actually, is the competitors are like super, fierce. They're like, oh, I want this person out, or this person is going home, or, you know, they play a strategy to try to get that person home. And sometimes people don't, you know, they're not very nice about it. They don't go about it in a nice way. And it's really interesting because you know, there was an episode where multiple contestants got brought back that had been eliminated for a chance to cook their way back into the competition. And the judges were not the 3 judges, they were the remaining contestants. So, although, you know, it was a fair assessment of whose food was better at the end of the day, it's just really interesting because, you know, if, for example, there was one guy that was not nice to people, he made enemies with almost everyone. No one wanted him back in. And I'm sure they like were hoping and trying to pick the other person's dish because it was him and another guy. And even if he won and got back into the competition, everyone would probably be gunning after him because no one liked him. And that's what's so interesting about kindness. Whereas there is one lady, she's actually blind. She's Christine. Her name's Christine. And although she's competitive, although she's saying, oh, like, I want this person out because, you know, they're not very nice, or maybe, oh, they're my biggest competition, she's still, I think, incredibly nice to people. And it's amazing because when people get knocked out, they're always like, Christine's gonna win it. And whether that's, you know, they're all talented. So, you know, whether that's they think Christine is the most talented, or they just really like Christine and want her to win. So it's just really interesting to see that dynamic, you know, in a show where, you know, there are people rooting for Christine. And I believe I'm rooting for her because she's so kind and genuine. So, I don't know. I've been holding this bao bun and just talking. Anyway. Great show. And I think it's a good principle to live by, you know. There's that old age saying, which essentially is treat other people the way you want to be treated. I'm sure everyone wants to be treated kindly. So why not treat other people that way? And of course, people talk about karma, you know? Karma really being a real, you know, I didn't say the word, but you know the word. Last bao bun, and this was a good meal. Maybe not the most nutritious, but delicious. I wonder if that's a slogan anywhere. Hopefully not. Wasn't intentional. Actually, no, that could never be a slogan anywhere. As I give it a second thought, I'm like, who the heck would say this is not nutritious? Obviously, people would say it's delicious, but I don't think there'd be any company that would be, oh, this is not nutritious, but delicious. I think the one food that, you know, the first food that comes to mind, if they really did make an ad for that, would be Twinkies. No, deep fried Twinkies. Oh, I've only ever had one Twinkie in my life, but I hear it's not good for you. And when I ate that one, I was just like, dang, this isn't good for me. How's my heart? How's my blood pressure? So, you know, hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Please feel free to, you know, leave some comments. Feel free to answer the question of the day, which was, you know, what are some of your funny, embarrassing moments? Yeah, please like and subscribe. I know that goes a long way and that helps me out a lot, so please do that. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the content and hopefully you stick around for the next video. Okay, thanks, bye.